My friends, tonight we turn our attention to one of the simplest yet most profound truths you will ever encounter. Your inner talking is shaping the world you walk through. Every conversation you hold within yourself, whether in whispers or thunder, whether in complaint or thanksgiving, is the blueprint of tomorrow's experience. The outer world is nothing more than the echo of the inner dialogue you sustain. If you would change your life, you must change the conversation you carry in the depths of your own mind. So let us move step by step into the art of mastering inner speech, the true secret of creation. Recognize the power of inner speech. My friends, let us begin at the very root, for without this recognition, all further effort is vain. Step one is the awakening to the truth that your inner speech is not a shadow, not a passing breeze of thought, but the very power that molds and shapes the circumstances of your life. Until a man or woman sees that what they carry on within themselves, in the privacy of their mind, is the true cause of all they encounter, they remain asleep to the law of life. Now let me be very clear. I am not speaking of words idly spoken in the marketplace, though they carry weight. I am speaking of the continual murmur, the ceaseless dialogue, the conversation you are forever holding with yourself. That silent monologue is the architect of destiny. You may think it harmless to replay a grievance, to rehearse an argument, to whisper to yourself a complaint. But every such inner word is a seed, and the soil of consciousness never refuses a seed. It simply brings forth after its kind. The recognition of this truth is revolutionary. For once you accept that your inner talking is causative, you can never again place blame upon circumstance, upon fortune, or upon the actions of another. You see clearly that the outer world is but the printout of the script you have been speaking within yourself. It may sting at first, for it means that even the conditions you dislike are of your own making. Yet it is liberating beyond measure. For if you created the unwanted through unconscious speech, then surely you can create the desired through conscious speech. So let us linger here. Recognition is not intellectual assent alone. It is the deep conviction that grips the heart. To recognize the power of inner speech is to watch carefully the direction of your mind. When the thought of failure arises, and you give it inner words, I cannot, it will not happen. Life is against me. You must recognize in that very moment, you are decreeing your own downfall. And when the thought of success appears, and you give it words, it is mine. I am chosen. All is working for my good. You are decreeing your triumph. Let me tell you, the most creative act you perform daily is not with your hands, not with your pen, not even with your public speech. It is your hidden word. That hidden word spoken in the inner chamber of consciousness is the word that was in the beginning, and the world was made by that word. And without it was not anything made that was made. Now some will say, but how can my little mutterings, my silent words, bring forth realities so vast? I answer, creation is finished. Every possibility already exists suspended in imagination. Your inner speech selects, calls forth, and clothes one of those possibilities in visible form. Your word is the selector. When you continually speak the word of lack, you select lack from the great field of possibility. When you speak the word of abundance, you select abundance. What you say inwardly chooses which branch of reality you walk upon. This recognition must become a living awareness. As you walk the street, notice the words you mutter under your breath. As you lie upon your bed, notice the lullaby of thought that sings you to sleep. As you wake in the morning, notice the first word you give yourself. These are not trivial. These are the foundation stones upon which your day is built. And here is the great challenge. We are creatures of habit. We have spoken the same inner words for years, so they seem natural. The man who always calls himself unlucky does not even notice the word, for it feels true to him. The woman who always says within, no one sees me, no one values me, thinks it harmless, but she is sowing seed for tomorrow's loneliness. To recognize the power of inner speech is to become aware that these habitual words are not harmless. They are law in action. I tell you, if tonight you would take this one step seriously, just this first step, you would transform your world. Do not rush ahead to technique until you have first honored recognition. For without recognition, all practice is mechanical, and mechanical practice yields no fruit. But when the heart awakens to the fact that my inner word is the word of creation, then every moment becomes a holy moment. You will watch your speech as a gardener watches over delicate shoots. Consider the man who plants a rose. He does not casually throw stones upon the soil. He does not trample the ground with careless feet. He tends it, guards it, waters it, protects it from weeds. In the same way, when you recognize the power of inner speech, you tend the soil of consciousness. You refuse to plant weeds of fear and complaint, because you know they will rise tomorrow as bitter fruit. You deliberately plant words of beauty, gratitude, and victory, because you know they will rise as the garden of your life. This step requires courage, for it removes every excuse. You cannot say, "Life dealt me this lot." You must say, "I have spoken it into being." Yet courage is the very beginning of mastery. When you stand in courage, you declare, "Yes, I have spoken wrongly before. Yes, I have built some walls with careless words, but now I know, and knowing I can change. I can speak a new word, and the world must obey." Think with me for a moment. Is there any power outside of consciousness that molds your life? None. Everything is within. So if you do not like what stands before you, turn inward and change the world. The moment you recognize the power of your speech, you stop fighting shadows. You no longer rail against conditions. You go to the root, to the unseen conversation that gave them birth. And hear me well, recognition is not once and done. It must be renewed daily. Just as the sun rises each morning, so must you rise in awareness each day, declaring again, "My inner word is the power of creation. Today I choose my word wisely." Let that become the song of your soul. Let that become your unshakable note. So step one is recognition. Recognition that inner talking creates reality. Let this recognition grip you until you cannot escape it. Let it shine upon your thoughts until you see clearly. There is no power outside the word you sustain with. When this dawns upon you, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the author of life. And once you stand upon this foundation, the steps that follow will be natural, inevitable, and sure. To quote, observe the current conversation. My friends, having recognized the power of inner speech, we now take the second step, observation. For you cannot change what you do not first see. A man may own a field, but if he never bends low to look at what grows there, weeds will overtake it. Likewise, if you do not stop to observe the inner words that flow so easily, they will rule you without your knowing. To observe is to awaken as witness. It is to hear with fresh ears the very dialogue you have been carrying on unconsciously. And you will be astonished at what you find. For most of us, the inner talking is not noble, not joyous, not filled with thanksgiving, but a ceaseless stream of complaint, doubt, fear, and regret. These mutterings are so habitual, so automatic, that we mistake them for background noise. Yet they are not noise, they are commands, they are decrees. They are seeds that call forth tomorrow's harvest. Pause with me and consider, what words do you hear within yourself when you face difficulty? Do you immediately say, "It is too hard," or "I cannot"? When you look at another who prospers, what dialogue arises? Do you whisper within, "That will never be me," or "They had advantages I never had"? When you think of your future, what language do you sustain? Do you murmur, "It always turns out badly for me," or "Nothing ever changes"? Observation is not condemnation, it is life. When a man switches on the lamp, the darkness is revealed for what it is. Not to shame him, but to allow him to see clearly. Likewise, when you observe your inner talking, you do not scold yourself for what you find. You simply see it plainly, directly, without disguise. You realize, this is the story I have been telling. This is the word I have been sustaining. And that realization is the beginning of freedom. Let me give you an example. A woman may long for companionship. Outwardly, she prays for love. She reads books on relationships. She attends gatherings in search of connection. Yet inwardly, if she observes her speech, she may find a steady refrain, "No one wants me. I am invisible. I am always overlooked." Those words, silently spoken, are the true prayer. And the world, faithful servant that it is, answers not the outer request, but the inner word. Or consider a man who desires wealth. Outwardly he works hard, takes on extra hours, studies ways of investing. But inwardly, if he listens carefully, he hears himself say, "Money slips through my hands. Nothing ever works out for me. I was not born for prosperity." Those inner words repeated daily create the only harvest he can reap. Struggle, frustration, lack. So I say, observe. Do not take for granted that your speech is aligned with your desire. Stop and listen. You may find the very opposite. is being spoken all day long. This step, though simple, requires honesty, for it is easy to hide from oneself, to pretend that we are positive, that we believe, that we trust. But the evidence lies in the dialogue we sustain when no one else is listening. How do we practice this observation? Begin by setting aside moments in the day to grow still. Close your eyes, withdraw from the outer world, and turn the ear inward. Ask yourself, what am I saying to me? You will hear it. The tone, the phrase, the familiar refrain. Do not try to change it yet. Simply hear it. Let it come into the light. Then extend the practice into daily living. As you walk the street, as you sit at your desk, as you ride the train, catch yourself speaking within. Hear the complaint rise when someone delays you. Hear the muttering of fear when you open a bill. Hear the sigh of resignation when a dream comes to mind. Train yourself to become the witness of these words. At first, it will shock you. You will see that you have been carrying on a conversation of defeat for years. But do not be discouraged. To see is the first sign of awakening. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. And once you see, you will realize, I am not the prisoner of these words. I am the speaker. And if I can speak one word, I can speak another. This step is not about forcing. It is not about immediately rushing to change. It is about honest seeing. Imagine a man who discovers a spring of water. If the water is muddy, he does not curse. He simply acknowledges it is muddy, and then he seeks the source to purify it. So with your speech, if you hear mud, do not curse. Simply acknowledge, this is where you stand. This is what has been spoken. And with that knowledge, you are ready to move forward. But hear me well. Many skip this step. They leap to affirmations, to positive declarations, without first observing. And so they speak one word for 10 minutes, and another word for the remaining 23 hours of the day. Which word will prevail? The constant one, the habitual one. That is why observation is essential. For until you see what you are truly saying, your new word will be drowned out by the old refrain. I tell you, the world without is a loudspeaker, amplifying the inner talk. If you wonder what your inner conversation has been, look at your life. It is the printout of your speech, your relationships, your finances, your health, your opportunities. All are the echoes of your inner word. If the echo displeases you, do not rage against it. Do not try to smash the mirror. Go back to the source, to the words spoken within. Observe, and you will know what has been written. Now let me press this upon you. Observation must be gentle, but relentless. Do not turn away from what you find. If you hear yourself saying, I always fail, do not cover it up with a quick, no, I succeed. Stop, hear it. Let the weight of that word sink in. Realize that this is the seed you have been planting, season after season. And in that realization, resolve quietly, I will no longer sow this seed. That resolve is born not from denial, but from observation. So step 2 is this. Cultivate the art of listening inwardly. Become more interested in your private dialogue than in the noise of the outer world. Watch the tone of voice you use with yourself. Notice whether it is harsh or kind, fearful or confident, small or expansive. Notice the phrases you repeat, the stories you tell, the assumptions you carry. Observe without resistance, and the very act of seeing will begin to loosen the grip of the old conversation. Do not rush, my friends. Do not think observation is wasted time. It is the foundation upon which all transformation rests. For the man who sees clearly cannot continue as before. Light once seen cannot be unseen. To observe is to awaken from the trance of unconscious speech. And awakening is the beginning of freedom. So tonight go inward. Bend low to the soil of your mind. Listen to the words you have planted there. And when you see them for what they are, you will be ready for the next step, to interrupt the old pattern and install the new. 3. Interrupt the old pattern. My friends, having recognized the power of inner speech, and having observed with honesty the conversations we sustain, we now arrive at the 3rd step, interruption. For recognition alone will not suffice, nor will mere observation. You may see the weed in the garden. You may know it is choking the life of the rose. But unless you bend down to uproot it, the weed will remain. So it is with inner talking. It is not enough to know that the old words are there. You must break their rhythm, interrupt their flow, stop their endless repetition. For the old pattern is like a groove cut deep in the record of mind. And unless you lift the needle, it will play the same tune again and again. Now, how does one interrupt? First, by awareness in the moment. When you hear yourself saying within, I cannot, or it never works out for me, do not let the sentence finish its course. Cut it short, break it. Refuse to complete the old refrain. This alone is powerful, for every time you interrupt, you weaken the chain. Every time you stop the old story mid-sentence, you loosen its grip upon your mind. Think of the man who has long walked the same path across a field. The grass is worn down, the soil is hard. The path is visible from afar. If he continues walking that way, the path deepens. But if he stops walking there, if he interrupts the habit, the grass begins to grow again. The path fades. The soil softens. So it is with your words. The old phrases have worn grooves in your mind. But when you cease to walk that path, when you refuse to finish the old conversation, the groove begins to heal. Now let me emphasize, interruption is not repression. I am not asking you to suppress the thought, to bury it, to pretend it does not exist. Suppression drives the word deeper, and what is buried in darkness will rise again in stranger form. Interruption is not denial. It is refusal. It is saying, no, I will not continue this speech. I have spoken it long enough. I choose another. You may ask, what if the old words come again and again? Then interrupt again and again. Each interruption is a stroke of freedom. Each refusal to complete the story weakens its power. Do not grow weary. The old pattern has been rehearsed for years, and it will not vanish in a single day. But every moment of interruption is a triumph. Every breaking of the chain, a sign of awakening. Consider a man addicted to complaint. Every delay, every inconvenience, every slight stirs within him a torrent of inner words. Why me? Life is against me. Nothing ever goes right. If he simply observes, he will see the stream. But if he interrupts, if he says within, stop, no more of that, he halts the momentum. The complaint does not complete its circle. The energy is broken. And in that gap, in that silence, the possibility of a new word appears. Do not despise the silence. For when you stop the old word, there is a moment of stillness. That stillness is fertile ground. It is the empty space into which a new speech may be planted. But first comes the interruption, the clearing away, the breaking of the old. Now let me speak plainly. The old patterns will resist. They are familiar, comfortable, like old garments. Even if they are tattered and stained, the mind clings to what it knows, even if what it knows is misery. So when you begin to interrupt, the old voice will protest. But this is the truth. You have always failed. You will never change. Why resist me? I am who you are. Hear that voice, but do not bow to it. Interrupt it boldly. Say within yourself, you are not truth, you are habit, and I refuse to continue you. Speak to it as to a shadow, for that is all it is. The shadow has no substance unless you grant it your attention. Withdraw your agreement, and the shadow fades. Some of you may fear that interruption leaves a void. You may think, if I stop saying these words, what will I have left? If I no longer rehearse my fears, will I not be unprepared? Nonsense. The only preparation needed is faith in the unseen. Your fears never protected you. They only change you. When you interrupt the chain of fear, you open the door to a higher wisdom, to a word of life that carries true guidance and safety. I say to you, learn the art of stopping yourself. Practice it daily. When you catch the sigh of defeat rising within, stop it mid-breath. When you feel the complaint forming upon your lips, break it before it finds sound. When you sense the memory of past pain turning into an inner conversation, cut it short. Say within, no more. This simple act is a sword. It severs the old ties. Do not underestimate this step. Some long for lofty techniques, for grand affirmations, for mighty visions. Yet without interruption, the old words will choke the new. Imagine pouring fresh water into a vessel already filled with poison. Will the new water be pure? No, it will be tainted. So it is with your inner world. Unless you pour out the poison of the old speech, the new speech cannot flourish. Interruption is the pouring out, the emptying of the vessel, the cleansing of the cup. Let me give you an image. Imagine a man standing by a bell. For years he has struck it, again and again, until the sound fills his house. Now he desires silence. How does he achieve it? By striking it once more? No, by refusing to strike it again. The bell will still ring for a time, for past strikes have set it in motion. But if he does not strike again, the sound will fade. So it is with your words. The old phrases will echo for a while, for they have been struck often. But if you refuse to strike them anew, they will fade, and soon the silence will be clear, ready for a new sound. Do not be discouraged if the echo lingers. Patience, persistence, refusal. These are the tools of interruption. Each time the old word rises, break it. Each time the bell tempts you to strike, hold back. The silence that follows will become the birthplace of the new. So step 3 is this. Learn to interrupt the old pattern of speech. Recognize it as soon as it arises. Refuse to finish its sentence. Break the rhythm. Stop the chant. In its place, a silence opens. A gap is created. And into that gap the new word can enter. Without interruption there is no room for change. With interruption the old dies, and the new has space to live. Take this step seriously. Practice it daily, and you will find that the grip of the past begins to loosen. The chain of habit begins to weaken, and the mind grows ready for the installation of a new conversation. 4. Install the desired word. My friends, now we arrive at the turning point. You have recognized the power of inner speech. You have observed the conversations that run like streams within you, and you have learned to interrupt the old refrain. But interruption alone is not enough. A garden that is cleared of weeds, but left barren, will not remain empty for long. Nature abhors a vacuum. Something will grow there. If not the rose you intend, then some wild weed will return. Therefore, having cleared the soil, you must plant deliberately. Having silenced the old speech, you must install the new. This is step 4, the conscious installation of the desired word. Now hear me well. The inner talking you sustain must match the end you seek, not the conditions you see. For the outer world is the echo of yesterday's word. If you let today's speech be dictated by today's appearance, you remain chained to the old pattern. To install the desired word is to ignore appearances and speak from the place of fulfillment. Let us make this practical. Suppose you desire health. The body may show weakness, the doctor may declare sickness, the senses may testify to pain. Yet within you must install a new conversation. Hear yourself saying, I am whole. I feel strong. Life surges through me. Imagine a friend congratulating you on your recovery. Carry on that conversation until it becomes more natural to you than the language of sickness. Or suppose you desire success. Outwardly, the bank account may be small, the opportunities may seem few, the evidence of failure may loom, but inwardly you must not continue the dialogue of lack. You must hear instead the words of triumph. Well done, you've made it. Look how everything worked in your favor. Carry on that congratulatory dialogue until it feels real, for the inner word precedes the outer fact. This is the secret. Speak from the end, not of the end. Do not say one day I will be. That is still the language of distance. Instead, say within I am now. Hear the inner voices of others acknowledging your fulfillment. See yourself responding with joy and gratitude. Install this dialogue until it becomes the natural speech of your soul. Installation requires persistence, for the old conversation will try to return. You must replace it again and again. Think of it as training the tongue of your mind. A child learning a new language stumbles at first, mispronounces, forgets, but through repetition the new words become natural. So with you. At first, the new speech may feel strange, artificial, as though you are pretending. Do not be dismayed. Persist, and the new word will take root. And let me tell you, what feels like pretending is the very doorway of faith. For faith always speaks what the senses deny. Faith always holds the word of fulfillment before the evidence appears. If you wait until you see it to say it, you are not creating, you are reporting. Creation demands that you speak the word before it becomes visible. And by your persistence you call it into form. Installation is not merely repeating phrases like a parrot. It is carrying on a living conversation that implies your wish fulfilled. Imagine it vividly. If your desire were already realized, what would you hear? What would you say in reply? Build that scene inwardly, and then rehearse it until it feels natural. That is the installation of the new word. For example, if you long for reconciliation with a loved one, do not inwardly repeat, we are reconciled. We are reconciled, as though chanting a chant. Instead, imagine hearing them say, I'm so glad we are together again. Imagine yourself answering, it's wonderful, I knew it would happen. Carry on that dialogue naturally, as though it were taking place now. That is the speech that creates. Installation also requires emotion. Seek your new word not as a lifeless script, but as a living drama. Feel the thrill of the conversation. Let gratitude color your tone. Let joy infuse your speech. The subconscious responds not to empty words but to words clothed in feeling. As you rehearse the new dialogue, feel it to be real and it will sink into the depths of being. Now do not wait for special moments to install the word. Do it throughout the day, while walking, while resting, while drifting to sleep. Let the new speech be your companion. Replace idle chatter with constructive dialogue. Replace worry with thanksgiving. Replace doubt with assurance. Let your inner world become a constant rehearsal of the life you choose. And above all, let the last word of the day be the desired word. As you drift to sleep, carry on the conversation of fulfillment. For in sleep, the subconscious is most open, and the final word sinks deep into the soil of night. Let your last inner talk be one of triumph, joy, and completion, and it will rise with you in the morning. Now some will say, but is it not self-deception to speak what is not yet seen? I tell you no, it is self-deception to continue speaking the word of defeat when the truth of being is victory. It is self-deception to call yourself sick when the life of God is within you. It is self-deception to call yourself poor when abundance is the nature of spirit. To speak from the end is not deception. It is alignment with the unseen reality that waits to be made visible. Do not think this is fantasy. The outer world is nothing but crystallized inner speech. Everything you now see was once a word sustained within. If the old words could produce the life you now have, will not the new words produce the life you now desire? Trust the law. Speak, and it shall be. Installation requires vigilance. The old phrases will rise, especially in moments of stress. Do not despair. Interrupt them as you have learned, and then install again the desired word. Do this 1,000 times if necessary. Each time you are deepening the groove of the new pattern, until one day it becomes automatic. Then you will find that without effort, your inner talking is aligned with your desire, and the outer world must conform. So let me summarize this step in a single command. Install the desired word. Do not leave the garden empty. Do not let silence alone be your portion. Seek the new word boldly, joyously, persistently. Carry on the conversation of fulfillment until it becomes your second nature, and when it does, the world will echo it back to you in visible form. Step 4 then is the active planting of the seed. You have cleared the soil, now sow the road. You have silenced the old chant, now sing the new song. You have interrupted the pattern of defeat, now install the pattern of victory. This is the turning point, the moment when you cease to be a prisoner of past words and become the author of tomorrow's life. Take this step with seriousness, with devotion, with faith, and you will discover the truth. The word was made flesh and dwelt among us. 5. Persist in the new conversation. My friends, now we come to the heart of the work. For recognition is the spark, observation the mirror, interruption the breaking of chains, and installation the planting of the seed. But without persistence, the seed will not grow. Step 5 is persistence, holding fast to the new conversation until it becomes the very breath of your being. You see, life does not yield to one passing word. A single declaration may stir the soil, but it is persistence that waters the seed. Every farmer knows this truth. He does not plant today and reap tomorrow. He tends the ground, waters faithfully, guards against weeds, and waits with patience. If he were to pluck up the seed each morning to see if it had sprouted, he would destroy the harvest. Likewise, if you abandon the new word when results are not immediate, you uproot the seed of your own creation. Persistence is faith in action. It is the refusal to turn back, no matter what the outer world declares. For the outer world is always a lagging echo, a delayed reflection of inner speech. If you speak the new word for a day and then return to the old because nothing has changed, you prove only that you did not trust the law. But if you persist, if you carry on the inner conversation of fulfillment again and again, the echo must come. Let us make this vivid. Suppose you have installed within yourself the dialogue of success. You hear friends congratulating you. You feel the thrill of accomplishment. You carry on the inner speech of triumph. Yet in the outer world, bills pile up, opportunities close, and evidence seems to shout, failure. What then? The temptation is strong to return to the old word. Nothing works for me. I knew this was foolish. But persistence says no. Though the outer contradicts, I will not change my word. I will sustain the inner conversation of success until the outer must conform. Or consider one who has installed the word of health. Inwardly she speaks of wholeness, of vitality, of strength. Outwardly the body still aches, the doctor still frowns, The evidence still declares weakness. What will she do? If she persists, she continues to speak the inner word of health, undisturbed by appearances. She holds fast to the conversation of victory until the body itself is compelled to echo her word. This is the test. Can you persist when the senses deny? Can you continue the inner dialogue of fulfillment when every outer voice mocks you? That is the measure of faith. Faith is not tested when things are easy, when the outer agrees. Faith is tested in the night, in the silence, when nothing seems to change. It is there you prove whether you believe the inner word creates reality. Persistence does not mean straining. It is not forcing the word, not shouting it in desperation. It is calm, steady, consistent rehearsal of the end. It is holding the inner conversation lightly but firmly, as one who knows the outcome is certain. Imagine a mother rocking her child to sleep. She does not shake the child violently, nor does she abandon it after one moment. She rocks steadily, gently until the child rests. So must you rock your desire with steady inner words until it comes to rest in reality. You may ask, but how long must I persist? Until the harvest comes. Do not measure the time. Do not look for signs. Your task is not to control the season but to sustain the seed. The law is faith. As long as you persist, the harvest is sure. Persistence also means consistency. Do not cancel your inner word with careless outer speech. If inwardly you declare abundance, do not outwardly complain of lack. If inwardly you declare love, do not outwardly speak bitterness. Guard your tongue, for every outer word reveals the inner. Keep the two in harmony, and persistence will bear fruit more swiftly. Now persistence requires patience, but not passivity. It is active, deliberate, watchful. You must be vigilant, for the old words will return like ghosts, seeking entrance. They will whisper, give up, nothing is changing, you are wasting your time. Do not argue with them. Simply return to the new conversation. Replace the old with the new, again and again, until the ghost grows silent. Think of persistence as the beating of a drum. One strike may make a sound, but repeated strikes create a rhythm that cannot be ignored. One rehearsal of the desired word may stir the mind, but repeated rehearsals create a rhythm so strong the subconscious must respond. Strike the drum of your new word daily, hourly, until its rhythm becomes the heartbeat of your being. Do not mistake delay for denial. The seed grows in silence. You cannot see its roots forming beneath the soil, yet they are there. Likewise, your persistent inner word is working beneath the surface, arranging people, events, and circumstances in ways you cannot yet see. Hold fast, for when the roots are deep, the flower will appear. Persistence also means carrying the new word into every corner of life. Do not confine it to quiet moments of meditation. Let it color your walking, your talking, your working, your resting. Let the new conversation become your atmosphere. If the old word arises in the market, replace it there. If it arises at work, replace it there. Persistence means carrying the word of fulfillment everywhere, until no place is left for the old to dwell. Let me remind you, persistence is not grim duty, it is joy. For each time you speak the new word, you align with the life you desire. Each rehearsal of the fulfilled end brings you nearer to its manifestation. Rejoice in the persistence. Let it be a song, not a burden. The persistent man is the victorious man, for he refuses to yield until the world bends to his word. Now you may say, but must I be perfect? What if I falter? What if I speak the old word again? Do not fear. Perfection is not required. Persistence is. If you stumble, rise again. If you speak the old, interrupt and return to the new. Each return strengthens you. Each recommitment proves your faith. Do not condemn yourself for faltering. Only persist in rising again. So step 5 is this. Persist in the new conversation until it becomes the natural language of your soul. Do not yield to appearances. Do not be swayed by delay. Do not cancel your word with contradiction. Persist calmly, steadily, joyfully, and as surely as seed becomes harvest, your persistent inner word will crystallize into outer fact. The law cannot fail. The only question is, will you persist long enough to see it through? If you do, the reward is certain. If you do, the world must echo your word. If you do, you will stand as living proof that inner talking, sustained and persisted in, creates the reality you walk through. So I say to you tonight, persist, persist when the night is long, persist when the outer persist when nothing seems to change, persist, and the day will come when the new word spoken faithfully within will stand before you clothed in flesh. 6. Emotionalize the inner word. My friends, tonight we come to a most vital part of the work, the emotionalizing of your inner word. You may recognize the old conversation, you may observe it, you may interrupt and replace it, you may persist in the new one, but if the word remains dry, if it is spoken without feeling, it will never take root. For words are seeds, yes, but it is emotion that waters them, gives them life, and presses them into the fertile soil of the subconscious. Without feeling, a word is but a shadow, empty, lifeless, soon forgotten. With feeling, it becomes flesh and blood, alive and irresistible. Have you not noticed in your own life that the conversations you remember most vividly are those charged with emotion? You recall the heated argument from years ago, not because of the words alone, but because of the anger that burned in them. You recall the tender words of love, not because of their grammar, but because of the warmth that filled your heart as you heard them. Words with emotion penetrate, they lodge themselves in memory, in imagination, in the very fabric of being. So it is with inner speech. If you merely whisper to yourself, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am free, but do so coldly, mechanically, without conviction, your words are like seeds tossed upon stone. They cannot sprout. But if you speak those same words with the thrill of already possessing them, if you feel the joy of wealth, the vitality of health, the sweetness of freedom, then your words take root. They become alive and the world cannot help but reflect them back. Emotion is the bridge between imagination and reality. The subconscious does not respond to empty chatter. It responds to feeling. It accepts what you feel to be true, even when your reason denies it, even when your senses contradict. This is why a nightmare can make the body tremble, the heart pound, the skin sweat. The body responds not because the dream was true in the outer sense, but because the feeling was accepted as real. Likewise, if you can feel your inner word as true, the body and the world must conform. But here lies the challenge. Many attempt to create new conversations, but carry no feeling with them. They say, I am loved, while still feeling unloved. They say, I am successful, while still feeling failure. They repeat words like parrots, expecting magic in the sound alone. My friends, the power is not in the sound, it is in the feeling that accompanies it. So let us learn how to emotionalize the inner word. First, you must enter into the scene of fulfillment. Do not merely say the word, see it, hear it, touch it in imagination. If your word is I am promoted, then feel the handshake of congratulations, hear the tone of your employer praising you, sense the pride in your family's eyes. Do not say it as a dry fact, but as a living scene. See yourself there in the moment after the word has become flesh. That scene will stir the emotion naturally. Second, summon the feeling of gratitude. Nothing waters the seed of the word like gratitude. Gratitude assumes the gift is already received. Gratitude is the voice of fulfillment. When you feel thankful for what is already yours inwardly, you impress upon the subconscious that it is done. So when you speak your inner word, clothe it with thanksgiving. Say within yourself, thank you, Father, it is already so. That feeling of gratitude is the emotional garment your word requires. Third, let the body join the inner word. The body is not separate from imagination, it is its servant. If your inner word is one of triumph, then let your posture reflect triumph. Stand tall, breathe deeply, smile. If your inner word is one of peace, then let your body relax, your breathing slow, your face soften. Do not merely say the word, embody it. The emotion will rise naturally when body and word are in harmony. Fourth, use the power of tone. Have you noticed that the way you speak to yourself changes the feeling of the word? Say, I am free, in a flat, lifeless tone, and nothing stirs. Say it with rising joy, with conviction, with warmth, and the heart responds. The subconscious does not only hear the words, it hears the tone. So speak your new inner word with the tone that matches its fulfillment, and emotion will follow. And finally, surrender yourself completely to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Do not hold yourself apart from it, as though watching from a distance. Enter into it. Lose yourself in the joy of already being the one you desire to be. Let the feeling wash over you until the line between inner and outer dissolves. When you rise from such a state, you may doubt, you may reason, but the seed has already been planted. Some of you may ask, but what if I cannot feel it? What if I try and the emotion is absent? My friends, do not despair. Begin where you are. Sometimes all you need is the faintest spark of feeling to ignite the fire. Pretend if you must, but persist in the pretense until the feeling comes, like an actor stepping into a role. At first it may feel artificial, but as you repeat, as you clothe the word with small degrees of feeling, the role becomes real. Emotion is not forced, it is invited, coaxed, encouraged. Now why is this so important? Because the inner word is governed not by logic, but by assumption, and assumption is nothing more than the word felt to be true. You may logically say, I am rich, but if you feel poor, your assumption is poverty. You may logically say, I am loved, but if you feel lonely, your assumption is rejection. The law does not answer to your lips, it answers to your feeling. Therefore, step 6 is this: emotionalize your inner word until it vibrates with life. Let every new conversation be more than sound. Let it be clothed with gratitude, with joy, with confidence, with peace. Speak it not as a beggar asking, but as a creator declaring. Feel it as the reality now, and the law of your being will respond without fail. Consider this. Have you ever spoken angry words to yourself, words of fear or failure, and felt them so deeply that they became your very mood for the day? Did not those feelings go on to shape your actions, your choices, your experience? If such destructive words spoken with feeling can govern your life, how much more can constructive words spoken with joy transform your destiny? The universe is neutral. It mirrors the feeling behind the word, whether negative or positive. You cannot escape the law. You can only choose the feeling you impress. Choose then to emotionalize words of life, of abundance, of love, of strength. And let me say this, emotion is contagious. The inner word you clothe with feeling will radiate into your outer word, drawing to you men and women who match its vibration. Speak with the feeling of success, and doors will open. Speak with the feeling of love, and hearts will turn. Speak with the feeling of freedom, and circumstances will rearrange to release you. So tonight I charge you, do not speak your inner word as a lifeless child. Speak it as a creator, alive with feeling. Emotionalize the word until it is no longer a phrase in your mind, but an experience in your heart. For when feeling joins word, the union is irresistible. Creation cannot help but follow. This is step 6. Emotionalize the inner word and watch as life itself bends to the tone of your inner song. 7. Silence the contradictory voices. My friends, if you have followed me faithfully to this point, you know already that your inner talking creates your outer world. You know that you must observe it, interrupt it, replace it, persist in it, and emotionalize it. But now we come to a most subtle and dangerous foe, the contradictory voice. For even after you have declared, even after you have felt the thrill of fulfillment, another voice rises within and whispers, it is not so. You speak your word of wealth. And the voice replies, look at your empty account, your firm health. And the voice says, but your body is still weak. You declare love and the voice mocks that no one cares for you. And if you give ear to this voice, if you grant it authority, it will undo the work of your declaration. For the subconscious mind does not discriminate. It accepts whichever word you feel to be true. So as you give weight to the contradictory voice, you are planting weeds alongside your flowers. This step then is one of the most important. You must silence the contradictory voices. Now, how does one silence them? Some think it is by brute force, by waging war against, they say. I must fight these thoughts until they are gone. But in fighting, they only give them more life. For whatever you resist, you make real. Whatever you struggle against, you keep alive by the very energy of your opposition. Silencing does not come by resistance. It comes by withdrawal of attention. The contradictory voice has no power in itself. It borrows power only from your listening ear. The moment you turn your attention away, it fades, like a radio station no longer tuned. Have you ever been in a crowded room, with many voices speaking at once, yet your ear fastened on one? To the others you gave no heed, and though they were speaking, they may as well have been silent, for you heard them not. That is how you silence the contradictory voice, by refusing to give it the ear of your attention. But let us be practical. When the inner critic rises and mocks your word, what are you to do? First, recognize it for what it is. A habit of thought, a remnant of the old self, nothing more. Do not mistake it for truth. It is not the voice of God. It is the echo of yesterday's beliefs. Say within yourself, you are but shadow, you have no substance, and immediately withdraw your attention. Second, replace it with your chosen word. Do not leave the mind empty, for nature abhors a vacuum. If you deny the contradictory voice but offer no alternative, it will return stronger. So at once, speak again your word of truth. If the voice says, "You are poor," answer not with argument, but with declaration. "I am wealthy," and feel it. Let your replacement be swift, decisive, and clothed with emotion. Third, practice the art of indifference. Learn to look at the contradictory voice as you would at the barking of a stray dog on the street. Do you stop to argue with the dog? Do you demand it be silent? No. You walk on. You know it cannot hinder your path unless you choose to engage. In the same way, treat the inner contradiction as background noise, irrelevant, unworthy of your energy. Continue steadfastly in your chosen word, and the voice will wither from neglect. Fourth, enter into silence. There are times when words, both yours and the contradicting voice, must be stilled. In the stillness of inner silence, the contradictory voices dissolve. They cannot live where the mind is quiet and centered. Learn to sit quietly, withdrawing from all inner chatter, resting in the awareness of being. In that silence, your chosen word will take deeper root, free from opposition. And finally, anchor yourself in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The contradictory voice always speaks from the evidence of the senses. It says, "Look around you, nothing has changed." But when you dwell in the feeling of fulfillment, the senses lose their authority. You no longer look to the outer for confirmation. You look within. In the inner vision, the wish is already realized, and the contradictory voice cannot penetrate. Now let me tell you, the contradictory voice will not vanish overnight. It will return again and again, for it is the echo of years, perhaps decades of wrong thinking. But every time it rises, you have a choice. Will you listen, or will you turn away? Will you argue, or will you declare anew? Every act of turning strengthens your new state. Every refusal weakens the old. Think of the contradictory voice as a beggar who once lived at your door. You fed him daily with your attention, and he grew bold. Now you have ceased feeding him. At first, he will knock louder, cry more desperately, demanding the food he once received. But if you persist in refusing, one day he will leave, for he cannot survive where he is not fed. So too with your contradictory voices. They are not immortal, they are fed only by your attention. Withdraw that food and they must die. And when they die, what remains? Only your chosen word, alive, vibrant, unchallenged. Then the subconscious accepts it wholly, and your outer world reflects it with perfect fidelity. My friends, the battle of life is not out there in circumstances, in people, in events. It is in here, in the chamber of inner speech. The contradictory voice is the only enemy you need conquer. And you conquer it not by force, but by indifference, by replacement, by silence, and by persistence in your chosen word. Hear me well, no outer obstacle can withstand the power of the word once it is free from contradiction. It is the divided inner house that falls. The single inner word held without rival must manifest. So step 7 is this: silence the contradictory voice. Withdraw your attention from them. Refuse to argue with them. Replace them with your chosen word. Practice indifference. Enter into silence and dwell in the feeling of fulfillment. Do this, and the mocking voice will fade into nothingness, while your true word becomes flesh before your eyes. This is the great work of mastery, to be unmoved by contradiction, to stand steadfast in the word you have chosen, until the world itself bows to your inner declaration. 8. Live as though it were already true. My friends, we have come now to a principle that separates the dreamer from the doer, the wisher from the creator, the hearer from the one who manifests. And this principle is simple, though not always easy. You must live as though it were already true. You see what that means? It means that you no longer wait for the outer world to give you permission to feel fulfilled. You no longer postpone your joy, your confidence, your gratitude, until some event proves it to you. Instead, you take your stand now inwardly, emotionally, spiritually, as if what you desire were already an accomplished fact. This is not pretending in the childish sense, not make-believe in the shallow sense. This is the conscious assumption of a state, clothed with feeling, sustained with inner talk, carried out in your daily conduct. To live as though it were already true is to occupy the end and refuse to move from it. Consider this. If you truly believed you were already the person you long to be, how would you feel right now? How would you walk into a room? How would you speak to a stranger? How would you lie down at night and rise in the morning? Answer these questions honestly, and you will discover how to live as though it were true. For example, let us say your desire is wealth. If you truly possessed it now, how would you feel toward the world? Would you be anxious about tomorrow's bills? Would you shrink from opportunity? Would you envy another's success? No, you would feel secure, confident, generous, free. Then begin to feel these things now. Speak from them, act from them, clothe yourself in them, even though the outer account has not yet caught up. For if you wait for the outer to change before you feel it, you wait forever. Or suppose your desire is health. If you were already strong and whole, how would you treat your body? Would you speak of it as frail, diseased, broken? Would you dwell on its pain, or would you rejoice in its vitality? Give thanks for its energy, treat it with respect. Then begin to live that way now. Speak health, feel health, act in harmony with health. You are not deceiving yourself. You are aligning with truth before it appears. Perhaps your longing is love, companionship, union. If your relationship were already beautiful and secure, how would you speak within yourself? Would you affirm loneliness, repeat words of rejection, expect disappointment, or would you feel cherished, worthy, desirable, grateful? Then feel these now. Let your inner talk be that of the beloved, not the forsaken. Live in the state of love before love walks in the door, and you will draw it by the law of your being. Do you see the principle? Living as though it were already true is not passivity. It is the boldest act of faith. It is declaring to the world, my reality is inward first, outward second. It is refusing to bow to appearances, refusing to let the senses dictate your state. You will say to me, but is that not hypocrisy? To act wealthy when I have little, to speak health when I feel weak, to live loved when I am alone. Am I not lying to myself? No, my friends, the lie is in believing the outer appearance is final. The truth is in knowing that imagination creates reality. When you live as though it were already true, you are aligning with the deeper truth, the truth that all creation begins with it. I tell you, the only hypocrisy is to declare yourself a creator, yet continue to live as the victim of appearances. The only lie is to say you believe imagination creates reality, and yet refuse to imagine and live from the end. Now, how do we practice this in daily life? Let us be practical. First, check your inner conversations. If you were already the person you desire to be, what would you be saying to yourself all day long? Would you be saying, I hope one day? Or would you be saying, I am grateful now? Change your inner speech to match the end, and you will feel the shift immediately. Second, check your reactions. Life presents you with countless opportunities to reveal your state. Someone criticizes you, an obstacle appears, a bill arrives. Do you react as the old self, fearful, resentful, defeated, or do you react as the new self, calm, confident, unshaken? Every reaction is a chance to prove whether you are living in the end or in the old. Choose consciously. Third, check your conduct. If you were already living in your desired state, how would you carry yourself? Not in every detail, for you need not pretend to own what you do not yet possess outwardly, but in essence. Would you move with fear or with assurance? Would you shrink or expand? Would you complain or give thanks? Begin to embody the essence now, and the form will follow. Fourth, persist regardless of delay. Living as though it were already true means you do not measure the delay. You do not demand outer confirmation at once. You know that the seed has been planted, and you live in the harvest before you see the stalk. When doubt arises, you say, it is already mine. When appearances contradict, you say, I remain in the end. This persistence is the proof of faith. Let me give you a picture. Imagine an actor cast in a role. He must learn to inhabit the character, not halfway but fully. On the stage, he does not try to be the character. He is the character. His speech, his movement, his attitude, all express the role he has assumed, and the audience, seeing him, believes it. So too must you be the actor of your own life. Assume the role of the one who already is what you desire. Play it so convincingly that the subconscious believes it, and life itself becomes your stage, conforming to your role. But there is this difference. The actor steps off the stage and returns to his ordinary self. You, however, must not step out of the role. Once you have assumed it, You remain in it until the world reflects, for the world is your mirror, and it cannot but show you what you inwardly have chosen to be. Now I tell you, this step demands courage, for the world will tempt you to drop the role. It will whisper, be reasonable, accept things as they are. Friends may mock you, family may not understand. They will point to the evidence of the senses and say, see, nothing has changed, and you will be tempted to agree. But if you do, you abandon your creation. Therefore you must be steadfast. You must hold the inner vision, even when all else denies it. That is why this step is not for the faint of heart. It is the step of those who truly know themselves as creators. And what is the reward? When you live as though it were already true, life itself bends to your assumption. Opportunities open, resources appear, people allow to events rearrange themselves to match your inner stand. And one day, without strain, you find yourself living outwardly what you first dared to live inwardly. Then you know that imagination, clothed with faith, is reality itself. So my friends, step 8 is this. Live as though it were already true. Walk in the end. Speak from the end. React as the end. Persist in the end. Refuse to be shaken by appearances. Refuse to step out of your role. Occupy your desired state so fully that the world has no choice but to mirror it. This is the great secret of creation, to claim inwardly what the world has not yet given, and to remain faithful until it appears. Do this and you will discover that what you once sought is already yours, waiting only for your assumption to call it forth. 9. Gratitude in advance. My friends, we have come to a most wondrous principle, one that opens the door to a life of effortless creation. It is the principle of gratitude, not after the event, not when the world finally hands you what you desire, but gratitude in advance. What do I mean by this? I mean the deliberate, conscious choice to feel thankful before you see the harvest. I mean the inner acknowledgement that what you long for is already yours, though the senses deny it. For gratitude in advance is the seal of faith. It is the sure sign that you truly believe imagination creates reality. Consider how most of us live. We wait. We say, when I have the job, then I'll be grateful. When the money comes, then I'll give thanks. When love appears, then I'll rejoice. When healing shows, then I'll pray. But that is not faith, that is sight. Anyone can be grateful when the gift is in hand. But the Creator gives thanks before the gift arrives, knowing that inward possession guarantees outward manifestation. Do you not remember the words, when you pray, believe you have received and it shall be yours? Believe you have received, how else do you prove that belief but by gratitude? If I truly believe I already possess, though unseen, I can only feel thankful. Gratitude in advance is the natural fruit of assumption. Now let me show you how powerful this is. Imagine for a moment you have asked a dear friend for something, and that friend has never once failed you. You know that when he promises, it is as good as done. The moment you make your request, even before he lifts a finger, you feel relief, you feel joy, you even thank him in advance because you know it is settled. So it is with your own imagination. The instant you assume, the instant you inwardly accept, the work is done. Gratitude is the acknowledgement of that invisible accomplishment. Let us take an example. Suppose you desire a new home. You may imagine it, see it in your mind's eye. Walk through its rooms. You may speak inwardly as though you already live there. But what seals it? What fixes it in consciousness is your gratitude in advance. You rise from the imaginal scene, not wondering, not hoping, but thanking. You thank life itself. You thank God. You thank your own imagination that it is already accomplished. And as you continue in that thanksgiving, the outer world begins to rearrange itself. Or perhaps you long for health. You imagine yourself strong, vibrant, whole. But do not stop there. Let gratitude rush in. Say within, thank you, that this body is now renewed, that life flows through me. Feel the thanksgiving not as a formality, but as genuine joy. For if you had received the gift this instant, would you not give thanks? Then give thanks now. For in imagination you have already received. This step, my friends, is not a mere technique. It is a shift of being. Gratitude in advance places you on the side of fulfillment, not longing. It transforms you from seeker to possessor. It moves your inner talking from when will it come to it is already mine. And this shift, subtle as it may seem, is the difference between endless waiting and certain manifestation. I tell you, ingratitude is the sign of doubt. If you say you have assumed, yet still complain, still ask, still plead, you reveal that you do not believe you already possess. Gratitude, on the other hand, is the mark of true faith. It says, I have asked, I have received, and I rest in thanksgiving. Now let us be practical. How do we cultivate this gratitude in advance? First, begin and end each day with thanksgiving for your fulfilled desire. As you wake before the outer clamor begins, enter the state of your wish fulfilled. See it, feel it, and then give thanks that it is so. Do not wait for proof. Give thanks now, and as you retire at night, sink into the same gratitude. Drift to sleep as one who already possesses, whispering, thank you, it is done. Second, throughout the day, whenever the old doubts arise, answer them with thanksgiving. If fear whispers, it is not here yet, reply, thank you that it is already mine. If appearances shout, nothing has changed, reply, thank you that it is already accomplished. Let gratitude be your shield, your answer, your song. Third, let your gratitude spill into all areas of life. Do not limit it only to the desire at hand. Give thanks for the breath in your lungs, the sun in the sky, the friend who calls, the stranger who smiles. Gratitude multiplies itself. The more you give thanks, the more reasons appear to give thanks. And in this atmosphere of thanksgiving, your assumption flourishes, for it is nurtured by joy. Now let me speak plainly. Some will tell you gratitude is a trick to make things happen, as though life were a machine to be manipulated. But I tell you, gratitude is not a trick. It is truth. It is the recognition of what is already so in imagination. It is the acknowledgement that your unseen act is real. You do not thank to make it happen. You thank because it has happened in the only place creation ever begins, within you. You may ask, but how can I feel genuine gratitude for what my senses deny? And I answer, practice. As with any art, you train yourself. At first it may feel forced. You may repeat the words without the feeling. But persist. Keep entering the imaginal act. Keep assuming the end. And keep giving thanks. Soon the feeling will blossom. And when it does, your whole being will lift. And you will know it is done. Let me illustrate with a story. A woman once desired reconciliation with her estranged family. She imagined their embrace, their laughter, their harmony restored. But each time she opened her eyes, the distance remained. She grew discouraged. Then she remembered gratitude in advance. She began each night to thank God for the reunion, to feel the joy of it as though it had already taken place. She said thank you until tears of joy filled her eyes. She carried that gratitude in her heart, regardless of appearance. And in time, life arranged itself. Unexpected letters, chance meetings, softened hearts, until the reunion was realized. Gratitude had called it forth. Another man, seeking employment, chose gratitude in advance. He would walk to his interviews saying, within, thank you for my perfect position. Though rejected by many, he did not waver. Each refusal he met with thanksgiving. Why? Because he was not thanking for the refusals, but for the job already his in imagination. At last, an offer came, one that far exceeded his expectations. Gratitude had paved the way. So I tell you, gratitude in advance is not optional. It is essential. It is the atmosphere of answered prayer. It is the vibration of fulfillment. Without it, your assumption may remain weak, fragile, easily broken. With it, your assumption becomes firm, joyous, unshakable. And let me warn you, ingratitude poisons creation. If you dwell on what you lack, if you complain, if you resent, you fertilize the very state you wish to escape. For what you occupy inwardly, you externalize. Therefore guard your heart. Choose gratitude. Let every thought, every word be colored with thanksgiving. Finally, let me give you this image. Gratitude in advance is like watering a seed. You have planted the seed by assumption. You cannot see the stalk. You cannot taste the fruit. But each day you water it with thanksgiving. And though the soil looks barren, though the surface shows nothing, beneath the earth, life is stirring. And one day the sprout breaks forth. The stalk rises. The fruit ripens. Not because you doubted, not because you begged, but because you gave thanks in advance. So my friends, step 9 is this. Practice gratitude in advance, not after, but before, not when the world agrees, but when only you and your imagination. Let gratitude be the song of your heart, the language of your inner talking, the fragrance of your being. For he who gives thanks before he sees, shall surely see. This is the secret of fulfilled living, to thank now, for what is already real within, and to watch as life answers with joy. 10. Rest in the assurance of fulfillment. My friends, we have traveled through 9 steps together, each unveiling a deeper dimension of the creative power within you. And now we arrive at the final step, the crowning jewel of this great journey, rest. Rest in the assurance of fulfillment. This is the moment when all effort ceases, when striving is silenced, when pleading is no more. It is the quiet recognition that the work is finished. That in imagination, where all things are born, the seed is already planted, the harvest already certain. To rest in assurance is to live from the end, knowing it cannot fail. Let us begin with a simple truth. Creation is finished. Everything that ever was, is, or shall be, already exists in the infinite imagination. You are not bringing something into existence from nothing. You are selecting that which already is, and claiming it as yours. And once claimed, once assumed, once accepted, the work is complete. Nothing more is needed but rest. Do you see the difference? Most of the world lives in endless striving. They push, they beg, they chase. They try to make things happen. They say, if I work harder, if I try longer, if I suffer enough, perhaps I'll get it. And in their striving, they reveal their unbelief. For if you truly believe the end is already secured, would you not rest? Would you not relax as one who knows the outcome? Think of a playwright who has already written the final act. Though the characters may struggle through the scenes, though the drama may twist and turn, the end is fixed. The author does not worry, for he knows how the story concludes. So it is with you. You are both author and actor. The final act has already been written in your imagination. To rest in assurance is to walk through the play with joy, knowing the conclusion is guaranteed. Now you may ask, how do I enter this rest? How do I silence the restless mind that wants to interfere, to doubt, to force? I say to you, begin by truly accepting that your assumption is reality. Not will be reality. Not might be reality. Reality now. The instant you assume, the instant you inwardly accept, you possess it. Rest is simply the natural response to that possession. Imagine a traveler who has already booked his ticket. He does not pace the floor worrying whether the train will come. He knows it is scheduled. He rests, he waits, he prepares with calm assurance. In the same way, once you have assumed your desire, you need not pace the floor of your mind, doubting and fretting. You rest, knowing the train of fulfillment is already on its way. Let me give you a living picture. Suppose you have desired companionship, the love of your life. You have entered the state of already being united. You have felt the warmth, the laughter, the embrace. You have given thanks. Now the final step is to rest. You no longer wonder, where is she? When will he come? That question belongs to doubt. Instead, you rest in the sweetness of the union, knowing it is already written in the invisible script. You go about your days with a light heart, because the end is secure. Or suppose you desire financial freedom. You have imagined the abundance. You have assumed the end. Now you rest. You cease fretting over appearances. You no longer measure your bank account to decide if it is possible. For your true wealth is in imagination. And from there the channels will open. Rest is your proof that you trust the unseen more than the seen. This rest is not laziness, it is confidence. It is not neglect. It is faith. It is not passivity. It is assurance. For even as you rest inwardly, life is at work outwardly, arranging, aligning, orchestrating. The seed once planted grows in silence. The farmer does not dig it up each day to check. He rests, knowing the process is sure. And let me emphasize, rest is the ultimate test of belief. If you still feel anxious, restless, desperate, it is because you have not fully accepted that the end is yours. The moment you accept, peace follows. You no longer strive to make it happen. You simply allow it to unfold. This is why it is written, in returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Let us now speak of the posture of rest. Rest begins in imagination. Each night as you drift to sleep, you enter the state of the wish fulfilled. You see it, you feel it, you live in it, and then you let go. You do not strain, you do not wrestle. You simply sink into sleep as though it were already true. This is the Sabbath of the soul, the holy rest of creation. During the day, rest appears as calm assurance. When doubts arise, you do not fight them with panic. You simply return to the end in imagination and say it is done. When appearances contradict, you do not collapse. You smile inwardly, knowing appearances are shadows and the reality within cannot fade. Rest is the stillness that comes from conviction. Let me share with you a story. A man once longed for healing from a condition that had tormented him for years. He tried remedies, pleaded in prayer, sought answers everywhere. But the more he strove, the worse he became. Then one evening, he heard this truth. Rest, for it is already done. He went within, imagined himself whole, and then he gave thanks. That night, for the first time in years, he slept in peace. He rested in the assurance of fulfillment. Within weeks, the condition faded. His rest had allowed the seed to bloom. Another woman desired a position that seemed impossible. She imagined herself in the role, gave thanks, and then rested. She did not send out endless resumes in desperation. She did not chase or force. She rested, confident it was hers. In a short time, an opening appeared that had not even been announced, and she was chosen. Her rest was the proof of her faith, and her faith was rewarded. So I say to you, do not underestimate this final step. Without rest, all the other steps falter. You may imagine, you may assume, you may give thanks, but if you continue in restless striving, you contradict yourself. Rest seals the work. Rest says, it is finished. And let me leave you with this vision. Imagine you are a builder. You have drawn the plans, laid the foundation, raised the walls, set the roof. The house is complete. What remains? To rest and enjoy it. That is where we now stand. You have built the inner house of your desire. The structure is complete in imagination. Now rest and let the world reveal it. Rest, my friends, is not idleness. It is trust. It is the highest form of activity, for it is the activity of faith. To rest is to stand still inwardly, unmoved by doubt, untouched by appearances, anchored in the end. And in that rest, life answers, for life always mirrors the state you occupy. So step 10, the final act. The great conclusion is this: rest in the assurance of fulfillment. Rest because the work is done. Rest because the end is secured. Rest because imagination has already claimed it. And as you rest, you will see the harvest appear in your world. As surely as the morning follows the night, this is the secret of all creation. The final wisdom of fulfilled living: to act, to assume, to give thanks, and then to rest, knowing it is finished. For the one who rests is the one who has truly believed. And so I leave you with this: enter your Sabbath, rest in the assurance of fulfillment, and watch as your world blossoms with the fruit of your imagination.